I would say that you better get the plebes educated, or they get kinetic violence no matter what. They're building up to it right now with Ronald McDonald and all this garbage with the medical people and whatnot. And they will, because it's the doctors that are lying right to our faces in some real egregious ways. They don't feel like they're our friends and neighbors. They wear a white coat. They're better than us. They're the priest class. That's a problem. A social problem. Yes. You don't know better than somebody else just because you have a piece of paper on the wall and a colored coat on. That's their body. And we are so used to just taking the pill, taking the pill, taking the pill. So they gave you zeolite. We use that for water remediation worldwide. They gave you C60. That makes the fullerenes and the nanoconnect better. They gave you EDTA. It'll tear you up on the inside, and it has other biosensor networks. They gave you silver, more biosensor networks. Why? How? Because your digital twin is being managed by AI and machine learning. So you cleanse as best you can, drink in your water, give up sugar, really difficult things with your diet initially. You'll feel better. But then the machine learning changes to the next vector, how you exercise, who you're around, which is why the longer you wait, the more will die. Nano exponentiates. The AI is growing itself into people. Now, before you freak out, you really need to understand this is market share again. Organelles and organoids are the way of the future. For augmented humans, phase 3. If you have any questions about anything I've just said, please see the Education X video I just loaded. I have simplified it down as best I can. If you refuse to discuss military warfare doctrine properly, and you refuse to discuss where industry and market share are today, topically, no one will help you. Now or in the future. The AI slowly subsumes your brain. It's built that way. That's how you're connecting to the cloud to upload your consciousness so that it can then be downloaded into a new body. It is what it is. Synthetic biology, technocrats, and our children who are going to college being lied to, manipulated, and all the adults standing around with their head up their own ass or kissing the ass of these white-coated frauds who still think they're better than everybody else. And then, of course, your grifter class who's been making money all these years, sitting at the UFO campfire circle and making sure nobody could talk about anything real. Slander is a profession. You may not know that, but some people are viably trained to commit very specific forms of libel and slander that can slide right underneath the radar but can rip apart industries, business, all sorts of things. Biofield practice is about individual people being able to discuss their empathy, telepathy, and precognition that is still intact, cleansing as best they can, upping their heart fire. That's morale. And I'm done with being called crazy. I'm very frustrated that what I listened to in the Tory show a couple days ago, with her admins being trolled and whatnot, attacked, ops, you're doing the same thing in our community. Your new target, by the way, is an innocent German woman. You targeted her before. Now you're doing it again. She ain't the only one. So why are you attacking my channel, our people, the same way you're attacking that Red Phone Ladies community and her admins? Gee, I wonder. Don't want anybody to know anything real in the United States of America. That's a problem. That's a you problem. Eventually, you will bite down and hit your head on the concrete of all the data I've laid out, or when you find out that those are real squad numbers and that I really survived exactly what I told you, they are going for broke because they don't have any other viable option So I do not deal in maybes and grifting. I don't. Lifelong, it's just not my thing. And as you can tell, my disposition here, apologies for the lighting, is a bit different because there's real death and violence coming. You didn't tell anybody anything real. People that have given you moment after moment, just begging you, like, please talk about this. And yet you've all selected to keep the grifts and the lies going that have been around since 1979, when I was born with a beacon-enabled Mac ID and barely survived hydrogel testing until I was 4 years old. And it kept going with some other things, but at 4.5, right before I turned 5, Jesus intervened in my life, ripped a hole in the dimension, pulled a seraph from right behind him on the white throne, burnt the carpet, and she was there ever since. I am not loginable by Pendleton. I am not an N3. That's why they've hated me lifelong and call me names. I have other videos coming up talking about that with the synergists. And that's the other big pressure that came up. Shut up, no one wants to hear you talk. Well, that's not what my people say. Not at all. In fact, some of them prefer conversation because it's easier than going through white papers. It's just, this is my video blog. I don't work for nobody. I didn't do this for some fucking organization. I did this as my promise, my covenant with my Creator. Amen. He saved me. And I promised myself, after climbing out of the diesel vats of bodies on top of me, no shit, and the cage shit, Bloomer, Wisconsin. I'm like, someday when I'm big enough, I'm gonna tell on you. Conviction, welcome to it. Yeah, scars are still on the body. Yeah. So I would heavily recommend those of you who are just so exhausted and all the rest, find a biofield practice with groovy tunes that help you, and then understand that pluripotent skin response, that's stem cells of your own. You just saved yourself 30 grand of a stem cell treatment for 2 minutes. Amazing. If you can hold elongation longer, you can do even more. Block, shock, shunt, and shield is built off of metamaterial mathematics for the machine learning systems that perturbate. And we've gone deeper with your quantum and biological. You bet your ass. I just haven't loaded it because right now people are burnt out with the technical. We're not, because we're still working on anything we can think of. But for the people that are, they really need biofield practice. It's just music. Now, the way that I move doesn't have to be the way you move. In fact, I hope it's not. And I hope that you feel different things and remember how incredibly able you still are. Okay? But that's the bulk of our community. So for those of you that are still coming from the governments and the spooks and threatening people with lawfare and other things, buckle in, bitches. You're about to meet something you never thought you would. Accountability. It'll be human, I guarantee it. And as you can tell, I take absolutely no, and given everything that you've done to me lifelong, you would think, no, I do not look forward to what they're going to do to you. All of you. That's why I begged you months ago to start telling the truth. I knew they go after doctors first. And they know where you live. You're low on the totem pole. That's why. By database. Engineering does not lie. Especially in machine learning. Because very few people know how to read it. You're welcome. Mark 5:36, amen, folks. See you on the Biofield Practice channel.